The majority of us were students and quite young, and I know it sounds funny to say this, but what it reminded me of was summer camp. I mean, there were eventually about 20 women in our cell. We each had a mattress. So every night we'd put the mattresses, mattress to mattress, on the floor. Every morning we would roll them up, and we had organized activities. All of us had come with books, so we easily had more than 100 books. And we organized courses. One of the women, one of the adults besides Helene in the cell, was Elizabeth Wyckoff, who was 45 years old. She was a Greek scholar, really quite well known, and she had translated Antigone, which is very fitting. And she decided she was going to give Greek lessons, and she said she'd always wanted to give Greek lessons without a textbook. My claim to fame is that I gave ballet lessons, so one of our few opportunities for exercise. And besides the people in my cell who were taking the class, Ruby Doris Smith in the next cell, in the black women's cell, wanted to take the class, and she had a little mirror. So she put the mirror up in the corner of her cell so that she could see into our cell, and she took the class along with us. One day we heard a crash. The mirror dropped, it broke. That was the end of Ruby's ballet lessons. We also did a lot of singing, freedom songs that were adaptations of spirituals. I remember particularly, "Oh, Mr. Kennedy, take us out of misery. Freedom's coming and it won't be long." We got a lot of mail while we were in jail, and this was a wonderful thing, but it was heavily and comically censored. I remember getting a card from a family member, and it said, "You're the," and then there was this big hole cut out of the card, but there was a top hat there, so it must have said, "You're the tops." They didn't want me to be encouraged. We went on a hunger strike, and I don't remember why. Perhaps it lasted 24 to 36 hours. People had brought food in with them, and I remember candy bars being hurled into the corridor. But after that, we were transferred to Parchman Penitentiary. And that was a very different experience. Helene was in Parchman much longer than I was, and she can give you more detail about it. The women were placed in a maximum security block. It turns out, although I think I didn't know this at the time, it was death row. The cell block was long and narrow. Each cell had 2 bunk beds, a wash basin, a toilet. We were 3 to a cell, including 1 mattress on the floor. We were let out of the cells only once a week to take a shower. We certainly didn't have much in the way of mail, and all our possessions had been taken away from us that we had in the county jail. We sang a lot. One thing that we knew was that the world was watching. There was a group of riders from Minnesota, and the governor of Minnesota sent a delegation down to interview the riders and to inspect the prison. I had a lot of food allergies and mild asthma, and my medication had been confiscated in Jackson. I seemed to be allergic to all the food they served, and I certainly was more frightened and stressed in Parchman. And so after a week, I had a major asthma attack for the first time in my life. My cellmates were very alarmed and called for the guard, and the guard left to report my condition. After a while, another prison official came and stood outside my cell and looked at me, and he said, "You know, we have cemeteries here too." I thought that was going to be the end. And the most remarkable thing, one of the most remarkable things that has ever happened to me, is that the women in the cell block began singing to me. They sang spirituals, they sang some of our freedom songs, and I thought, if I'm going to go, this is the way to go. 20 minutes later, a doctor appeared in my cell and gave me an adrenaline shot. And the next day I thought, it was time to leave. One of the anomalies of Mississippi law is that if you wanted to appeal your case, and almost all of us were going to appeal, you had to leave prison before the end of 40 days. So I left after 24 days. When I was released with a group of writers. Our attorney in Jackson, Jack Young, took us to his house where his wife had prepared a wonderful meal. I mean, we'd had such wretched food and I hadn't been eating a lot. I ate a lot of her wonderful food, and as you might expect, I couldn't keep it down, which was very unfortunate. The next day we were given plane tickets and flew home. All of this was funded by CORE, and it was very expensive. They had all the court fees, the attorney's fees, these plane tickets, and we all had to reassemble in Jackson in August for an arraignment for our appeal. This was a wonderful reunion for us, and we were put up at Tougaloo College. I spent that summer in the CORE office in New York, largely processing donations. It was a wonderful experience to work with James Farmer. He was truly one of the most intelligent people and determined people I ever met. In September 1961, the Interstate Commerce Commission issued regulations prohibiting segregation in interstate transportation facilities. This time it was enforced. And the Freedom Rides thus had achieved their goal. And what the movement did next then was to move on to the voting rights struggle.